Hey there, fam. How's it going? And welcome to episode of Monday Motivation. How y'all doing? This word today is a special word because we just came back from going and celebrating Father's Day. Shout out to all the dads, all the people that have stepped up to be dads, those single moms, those stepdads, or people that maybe an uncle or a brother that stepped up to being that father, just that role model. Just shout out to you guys because it's super important to have that, that male atmosphere, that male leadership in the household. And with that came this. Now, Father's Day can be, just like Mother's Day and Christmas, all these holidays, can be kind of messy, right? But it's amazing how God can be in the middle of your mess and turn that mess into a miracle. Yeah? That's what I want to focus on today. So I want to focus on how the story of Joseph, right? We know he was sold by his brothers, then he became, he was in jail, ended up being, the right hand to Pharaoh, right? And it's quite interesting because what we're going to pick up today is in Genesis 50, verse 20. If you're writing it down, Genesis 50, verse 20. And I want to give some backstory to then get into this verse, how Joseph already gone through so many things, right? He went from the pit to the palace and everything in between. We've heard that story hundreds of times. And maybe your life isn't the perfect picture, right? You don't have the white picket fence, the nice family, with, the dog and everything's super nice. Everything's just super picture perfect. Or maybe you try to portray that, but in reality, it's anything but that. Yeah? I want to talk to those people that feel like they're in the middle of their mess. Yeah? Maybe, just maybe, this mess that you're going through is actually a build-up, and it's actually a setup for the miracle that God's going to do in your life. You'll be thinking, Rodz, but you understand, my parents left me, right? I pretty much raised myself with my siblings. Or maybe I had a father figure, and he was great, and he passed away. Maybe, my mom abandoned us when we were little. Maybe, the whole family nucleus is jacked up, right? But it's amazing because what the enemy, meant for evil, God can turn to good. And that's what we're going to pick up right now in verse 20, where it says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended for it to be good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Right? And it's at this point where Joseph's brother, the world, the county, the area, whole area actually, the country was going into a famine, right? And Joseph was entitled, was in charge of, the food and distribution and things like that. Again, he was second hand. And they bring over the brothers and the father, and the youngest brother at this time now, because Joseph is gone, before Joseph, which they didn't even recognize him, right? And I want to sidebar really quick. You're going to go through some things in your life, right? Where, and I've said this before hundreds of times, you won't look like what you went through. Joseph was unrecognizable to his brothers, right? This is his flesh and blood, and they didn't recognize him because he just completely changed. In their minds, they're like, well, he died. This has been years upon years, right? Joseph is a grown man now, and they could probably thought, oh, he probably got sold off. He's probably in a different, whole different nation. Maybe he had died. But I'm sure they also kind of felt bad because, and I say that because there's also, if you go back a little bit, in Genesis 50, where their Benjamin, which is their youngest brother at the time, right there, Joseph goes, you know what? I'm gonna hide a little piece of gold, actually a gold cup, in their wheat, and I'm gonna catch them. Like, aha, you're just stealing from us, right? And then in return, I'm gonna kill your youngest brother. And the brothers had such pity because they probably thought, man, we already lost one brother, right? We can't lose another one, right? And Joseph said, hey, you know what? Like, I'm here. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to go and, cause and, pass judgment on you, which is where it says, you intend to harm me, right? That's Joseph talking to his brothers. I'm declaring over your life that you're going to say this over the things that maybe have held you back. Maybe some things that tripped you up. Maybe even certain people, right? Maybe they're not certain situations. Maybe it's people, right? That intended to harm you. Maybe you didn't have the amazing father figure. Maybe you didn't have the best role model and example to go up to. But I'm declaring that God's going to heal your heart. I'm declaring that God's going to just come into you and be that father that you feel like you didn't have. Be that role model you didn't have growing up. Being that warm, that embrace, that lovingness that you always and so desperately needed to have, right? Because it says you intend to harm me, right? Maybe that's what you're telling to younger you, right? Maybe you went through some, bad and, dirty and just dark times in your life, right? And you could have gone down the wrong path. Maybe you even did, right? But you came back, and now people maybe, right, we'll put it this way, maybe people in that old prior life are like, oh, well, look at you, you can never get past that, right? And they try to muddy up your name, right? You've gone through these things, you've passed through them, you've gone and you've grown out of it, but now they're trying to muddy up your waters, right? They're trying to, drag your name into mud. So it says, you intend to harm me, but God intended God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done. Right? Maybe you've gone through this process, and now because of this process you've gone through, you can now be an example for the other people. Right? And I've talked about this, I think I talked about it in a podcast here, but I definitely talked about it, in some personal group chats, group conversations with some buddies of mine and some really good friends of mine, that now you have become the example you needed growing up. Right? Now maybe you're able to save someone the hardship, the heartache of going through something because you already went through it, right? God built you for a certain reason. He built you to be strong. He built you to endure all this because he's never going to leave you nor forsake you. Yeah? You'll be like, but Rodz, man, you have no idea what I went through. You have no idea just the heartache and the pain. Like, how am I supposed to forgive that person? How am I supposed to go, and be an example for someone else? And I didn't have that example. Well, that's what you're called to be better. You're called to be different. You're called to excel and to be better than what you grew up and just were around, in the beginning, in the molding stages of your life. So now you can pass it on to your son, to your daughter, to your younger brothers, to the younger community, to the younger people growing up that are watching you, right? There's always someone watching you, right? And you might think, oh no, but who am I? I can't make an example. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at your school, maybe it's at your job, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be, there's always people watching you. They might not say it, but they are watching you, right? So why not take these issues, take these problems, and then turn them into a blessing, into a platform for you to go and speak about how God loves you, how he takes care of you. Yeah? I have another verse right here, Romans 8:28. And we know that all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. I'll say it one more time. Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. When it says all things, Pastor says it all the time, and I've repeated it too, just passing it on. And once again, see, he sold into my life, and I'm going to pass it on to you guys. Todo es todo. All is all. It doesn't say all things, some things that work together, or a select certain things, or the good things. No, it says all things, right? So you might have thought that battle you went through growing up, maybe that you battled addiction, maybe you battled some dark thoughts, maybe you battled, some mental illnesses, some mental, things where you just were, it was foggy up here and you didn't really know how you can get through it, but you did, right? God held you and he just grabbed onto you. And he never let go of you, right? So maybe this is now his opportunity, like I said, to turn that problem into a platform, right? But in a positive way, because now we live in the day and age where everyone wants to talk about everything and I'm such a victim. No. You're not a victim, you're a victor, right? You're going to be a victor. You're going to have that victory that God's given you, right? So when we take these things and we put them together and we use it for God's glory, when we put it into his hands, like I talked about it before, when you put it in his hands, you let him mold it. You let him go and guide. You let him just take all these issues and put it up to God and be like, Lord, you know what? I'm done. I can't go more than this. I need your strength. I need your clarity. I need your endurance to get me through this, right? The Bible says in Psalms 23 that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. You're called to go through it, not make camp in it. Yeah? So that's just the word I want to drop off to you guys. I want you just to stay motivated, get to understand that God can meet you in that mess. And he can turn that mess into a miracle. Yeah? I'll put that one more time. God can meet you in your mess and turn that mess into a miracle. Yeah? So just allow God to use you. Yeah? I love you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these talks. I love y'all. See you next week. Stay safe. And as always, make it the best day ever.